the appeal to involve environmental education in our regular academical subjects. In 1991, the Supreme Court agreed to his problem, and the Supreme Court suggested that environmental education should be a part of the academics. But until 2004, it was not a part of the academics. So in 2004 and in 2017, NC Mehta filed a PIL again. And after that, all the undergraduate courses involved environmental education as a part of their curriculum. And NCERT, AICTE, and UGC was AICTE and UGC included environmental education post the PIL litigation, PIL filing by NC Mehta. So this is a brief introduction about what the history of environmental education is, and now the importance and the problems and the solutions regarding all these things will be discussed by Sir. So before we start the Samvad, I would like to introduce our speaker a little bit. So there is nothing enough that you can say about Sir, but I will still brief all of you about what he has done for the purpose. So Sir has done his BTech in Civil Engineering and his MTech in Environmental Science and Engineering from IIT Bombay, and he has received his doctorate from Asian Institute of Technology from Bangkok. So after this, he was one of the faculties of IIT Bombay in the Environmental Engineering and Science Department until 1995. After 1995, he left IIT Bombay to set up the EMC, that is the Environmental Management Center, and he has been working on it since ever since. He functions as a corporate consultant with infrastructure leasing and financial services, and he has been affiliated with a lot of UN multilateral and bilateral divisions, the UNDP, the FAO, the United Nations, other industrial development organizations, and various other United Nations programs. And he has been a part of a lot of seminars and he has been a public speaker over in various places in universities in China, Japan, Tokyo, Oxford University, and he's also been a part of a press conference of UNEP. And we're pleased to have you, and we welcome you, Sir.
Thank you, Labdi, and a good evening to everybody who has joined for this Samvad today. I'm quite excited that I have an audience interested in environmental education. So friends, I'll now take you through my presentation. I think this little session we did on Mentimeter was useful for all of us to know about the audience of today. I will speak for about, say, 30 minutes. That is okay, Labdi?
Sure.
And then after that, maybe you might like to ask me some questions, Labdi, and then we can open it to the audience, if that arrangement is okay. So let me start showing you my slides. Okay, you have to tell me whether you can see the slide. Can you?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the topic which I'm going to touch upon today is a question actually, that are we future ready when it comes to environmental education? Of course, the topic is very broad when we say environmental education, but I'm going to be scoping it to more on the higher education and also specifically to the branches of environmental engineering. So that's the kind of a scope which I'm setting for this presentation. Now, if you look at this picture, you know, or you'll see on the screen on the left, काफी वहाँ बाढ़ के examples है. You see a lot of floods there. You see vayu pradushan, you know, people wearing masks in towns, which we're doing today for some other reason. Then you have pollution of our surface waters. because of discharges of sewage and effluent. You also are now witnessing, यहाँ नहीं हो रहा है उतना जितना you see what is happening in the United States, in California, forest fires. We also are worried about the sea level rise. You know, many of our island nations are under serious threat. Every day in large cities, what you see around is traffic jams, and now that even now when we see COVID-19 pandemic getting phasing out, already in Mumbai, for example, I'm finding we already are back again to our frequent traffic jams. We have disasters. You see on the left at the bottom, a heap of debris. We have just witnessed that in terms of cyclones, this time coming on the west coast. And you have pandemics. You have a serious situation of medical attention to be given to exposed population. And then every city today is boasting, should I say, of the landfills, which are ever growing. So these are the kinds of challenges we see. And the question comes to our mind that, is this our future? Obviously, that's not something which we want. This is not the future what we want. So you find that in such a kind of a situation, environmental education at all levels, in fact, plays a very critical role. And when we say environmental education, it may just even start right from the school. बच्चों से, ये जो education है वो बच्चों से चालू करना है, हम कर भी रहे हैं. But there is that foundation which is to be recognized as something very important, that we bring in environmental education in our schools from kindergartens and then take it all the way to higher education. And what is argued, like this is a very interesting statement from David Beckman, who is talking about that how children's mental and physical health, environmental education strengthens the self-esteem, leadership and character, and enhances social justice. Now, this is something very crucial. We want that to be ingrained. We want that to be part of our bringing up. And therefore, environmental education has a huge pyramid right from the foundation which we lay in our schools, and we take it all the way then to higher education. So against that a very broad canvas, आज मैं जो बात कर रहा हूँ वो बात ज़्यादा लिमिटेड है, फोकस्ड है, हायर एजुकेशन के ऊपर है, और उसमें I have chosen engineering as the base. I believe many of you here, I was told that from LD College of Engineering, that's so therefore I thought this subject may interest you. But there's a lot we can talk on environmental education in other tiers. If you look at that subject of environmental science engineering, sometimes it's also called as a survival engineering. You know, when you saw my slides of the kinds of challenges we face, this is a science and engineering we call for our survival. It has become so essential. It's a diverse field. जहाँ आप देखते हैं health, civil engineering. When I said health, the whole subject originated from public health engineering and sanitary engineering, got into the civil engineering and chemical engineering disciplines quite a lot. Then we have life sciences, urban planning, economics, social sciences, communication skills, and several more. It's a very long list. And the point is we have to realize that this diversity is something that you have to use as your advantage. So when you take a career in environmental science and engineering, that very diversity has to be recognized. It's a very interdisciplinary way of thinking. And when you see that the interdisciplinary brings in to your mind several circles like Venn diagrams which intersect, each intersection actually resonates to innovation and creative thinking to tackle the problem. So that's the big advantage, I feel, when you take this subject as your career. I talked briefly about the global challenges, what we are facing already, and maybe more challenges of this kind will appear. But the response to these challenges have been now more and more structured into the 17 sustainable development goals, or we abbreviate as SDGs. So environmental education will have to reflect these 17 sustainable development goals. They have to be embedded, they have to be communicated, and the curriculum should reflect the needs and the targets which we are setting under sustainable development goals. Now, we therefore obviously need to expand and transform the environmental engineering education, keeping in mind the sustainable development goals. This is a lot of asking, and this means that our environmental engineering education will have to be reflective and bringing in people to understand what commitments we are making at the individual level, right from our lifestyles to our businesses, to whatever performing actions we do, state and the national level, global level. We have to understand that these SDGs have to be kept in mind. There is something called sustainability literacy, a term which is now being talked about. And we want to make everybody sustainability literate. Obviously, then, when we talk about higher education and environmental engineering, that sustainability literacy to our SDGs become very important. I'm going to walk you through these possibilities, what can be done if we want to reflect. Now, one option we have, and many of you have already alluded, you have said, आपका जो फीडबैक है वो फीडबैक ये दिखा रहा है कि आप संतुष्ट नहीं है अभी के environmental education के बारे में, particularly to formal side and at a higher level, you as students are not very happy. And therefore, one option is that how can we strengthen that program, that curriculum, by adding, so to say, something like a plus. So the existing civil engineering program, can we take it to civil engineering plus, and a chemical engineering program to chemical engineering plus. In other words, we mainstream what we want to bring into the curriculum in the interest of our future. The second radical approach is to reform and create new curricula for environmental engineers covering not just technology. So we just don't teach them how to design a sewage treatment plant, for example, but topics such as economics and social perspectives and management and governance. So we now have a concoction here of many of the essential disciplines that we want our environmental engineers to get exposed and trained enough so that they realize the challenges and the solution methodologies they have to follow, especially in the context of our future. So I'm going to, in my presentation, going to restrict mainly to the first element, that how do you strengthen the or mainstream environmental thinking in many of the primary higher education programs we run in the disciplines of engineering. The second subject is a topic by itself. That needs a lot of discussion, debate, and I'm leaving it out today. In the limited time we have, we can only cover one of the two, so I chose to pick up the first one. And I'm going to take you through illustrative slides. There's not going to be much text in these slides, but more visuals for you to tell how do you bring in environmental thinking into the programs which we traditionally been running for many years. For example, transportation engineering. And what you see something exciting, if you ask me, what's happened apart from designing public transport systems, and how do you make even your construction of roads environment friendly, and how do you really bring in a multimodal transport in a city so that you have much reduced congestion and emissions and generation of noise. But you see something exciting happening. This is called the solar roadways. So you build transport systems while you do those so that you meet the mobility objectives, but you're also at the same time generating solar power. And that's something very exciting possibility which our students studying transportation engineering should know, that even if you were using a bicycle and moving on such roads specially designed, you're generating solar energy, and you can even have a powered bicycle as you move on these roads. So a transport engineer should be made also sensitive about such possibilities. And what you see here are engineered plastic roads. You're putting in your plastic waste to construct such structures beneath the road where plastic is utilized. And there are many businesses already engaged on doing and implementing such roads. And why not just what's happening outside India, but a lot happening very much here. And many of our Indian roads today crossed about more than 30,000 kilometers already, who make use of waste plastic. So this is a segment of transport engineering which has to understand this possibility. And how do you do that in a way which is safe, meets all the functional requirements, and at the same time has minimal risk to formation or leakage of microplastics. So this is again an important extension for a transport engineer. If you look at the geotechnical engineering, we have a lot of situation in our country of legacy pollution or contaminated lands. And how do you do contaminated soil engineering is something needs to be taught to the students today who are engaged or who are studying geotechnical engineering. And that's not easy. That requires a formal exposure to understand how do you identify contaminated sites first, and how do you do then contaminated site engineering as well as land remediation. Very specialized areas, extremely needed for our future, not yet taught in academia, but something very important that we all have as a professional geotechnical engineer should know. So we are talking about a lot of important lateral steps. You know, a geotechnical engineer has to get exposed and also learn how to implement and take these ideas into solutions. Soil engineering, prevention and control. If you look at many of our watersheds are today degraded because of overexploitation. And this is a specialized area of how do you do soil engineering to prevent erosion and control the sediments. And that means you need to bring in such topics while we have the curriculum of, again, on geotechnical engineering. One area we know has come up is green buildings and understanding overall the urban metabolism. Now, green buildings, you know, there are a number of courses for certification, but we got to get them now introduced into our higher education. Where first of all, we understand urban metabolism in terms of what goes in and what comes out in a city, which is decaying, is going through a process of demolition and upgradation and new structures being built in. It's a metabolic process. One has to understand here to know all the inputs we are putting in terms of energy and water and materials, and what is getting released in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, wastewater, and the spoiled materials which actually emanate from typical urban metabolism. This is a fundamentally important thinking which engineers and planners have to know and understand, that how do you bring them into some form of quantification. And then drive the point that green building is a concept. While it is green, it can be also competitive. It may be 2 or 3% higher when you invest, but its operational costs, because of the savings in energy and water, are going to be very attractive. And therefore, this is a concept which has to be done by default, literally. But then how much of that green building in design and engineering is taught in broad civil engineering disciplines? No, it's not really so much still taught, but certainly the practice is demanding that kind of a knowledge. This is an interesting structure. Suzlon's One Earth building in Pune, which is, if you haven't been, it's worth going and visiting, where you see all these green ideas put into practice. And goes without saying that when we are bringing in such subject, जैसे हम उसको education में लाएंगे, उतना ही हमें ऐसे एफर्ट करना पड़ेगा कि स्टूडेंट्स को फील्ड में लेके जाए और इनको ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर्स दिखाए. So it is not just a dream, it's something, not just a concept, it's been put in the practice. A lot of quantification has happened in terms of how much energy is saved and how much renewable energy is getting used. In this case, they use wind energy and solar energy, and saved significantly in terms of consumption of electricity, which is from the fossil fuels. The same concept now you see in the practicing world gone ahead. We talk about net zero housing. Net zero concept began with energy, it moved next to water. And this is something needs to be brought in. People have to study these topics in their curriculum, that how do you go about designing green and net zero buildings. You see here a wonderful structure where the terrace or the roof is put under vegetation. You really have urban forest creation, and then it's not just the forest. These are actually farms, and you can grow vegetables and fruits and minimize transportation of supplies coming over to you. So you try to make your system as much self-sufficient. वो जो आत्मनिर्भरता की बात हो रही है अभी, it's one of the examples is this, that you really create urban parks and forests and farms, and then use the waste coming from our dwellings to feed into these farms as compost. So it's a fully integrated system. But this concept needs to be taught. People should be able to design. We don't even teach many times how to do rainwater harvesting systems, as example. We'll talk about that. Green walls, extremely important again in the form of cladding, has a huge thermal advantage, also microclimate advantage to our buildings. As we looked at the building structures from outside, थोड़े अभी घर के अंदर जाके देखेंगे what's happening inside. And indoor air quality, one of the neglected areas in our country. We don't even have today standards for indoor air quality. You have release of chemicals from the paints and the furniture and the fabric, and you are getting exposed not just due to the chemicals but also the microorganisms. You'll find even molds coming and contaminating the air from the air conditioning systems if they're not well maintained. So how do you design a good indoor environment? And if you take it to a further ahead, if you really wanted all kinds of availability of sensors with you, and how do you develop a dwelling which has got complete control on the environment? It has relevance when it comes to sensitive receptors, hospitals and schools, but then there's a certain type of engineering which one has to understand. How do you go about designing and implementing such fixtures? A huge innovation happening in materials, and we have to bring it to the knowledge of our material science and engineering students. But it can even stretch right from bamboo structures. How do you design these bamboo structures? Not just RCC. This is again another example of a bamboo structure. So you need, in fact, a course just on use of bamboo materials. It's used not just for construction, but for packaging and so on and so forth. So bamboo has a great potential to be looked at. And you have all kinds of composites. Many of these composites are made out of waste, particularly with the waste plastic. And you find that trend is growing. But then we have to figure out also at the same time, what is the allowable recycled content? Will it not lead to any other risk just because these contaminants are there in the recycled materials? That takes us to the subject that how much do we expose today our students in civil engineering again and chemical engineering on the use of construction chemicals? And many of them have a great advantage, but many of them can also pose high risk during construction and post-construction. This is a subject not much discussed, but very important that we bring it in. I mentioned earlier about the waste, and we are looking at, for example, construction and demolition waste dominates today in our overall generation of waste in the cities. And we have to figure out that how can we reduce and how can we reuse that waste. That needs to be taught. So you have possibilities right from the hollow bricks and pavers. You can even make sleepers under the railway tracks. There's so many possibilities. And who's going to teach this? Who's going to help students to understand that these are the opportunities and needed skills for the future? Water, something very important. And how do you go about water use reduction, retention of water, and wastewater recycling? How much do we tell our students today about the water saving fixtures? What's the market? What's the cost? Does it make an economic sense to go for water saving fixtures? How do you engineer grey water recycling in multi-storied buildings? How do you bring in ideas of rainwater harvesting? We know about it. It's left to people who are in the practice, but it's not introduced many cases in our curriculum, which is also very important that students understand. The subject of water sensitive urban design is already, we call them as sponge cities. The concept came up a lot in Australia, then quite used commonly now in China. Suppose we want to make our cities as sponge cities, given the challenges on water scarcity and uncertainty due to climate change. We need to know how do you do water sensitive urban design. These are some of the examples where you look at the water sensitive urban design in details. Requires knowledge of vegetation, requires knowledge of surface engineering, groundwater percolation. The very point I made that you need an interdisciplinary thinking when you come up with such kinds of solution. The question is who is going to teach these subjects? And you have these examples very aesthetically done for improving percolation of water next to the roadways. So that's again an element of the design. Stormwater retention being done now organized way in large cities. Water resource as a stormwater retention looked at for potential water use in a less rain-fed state of Australia, the South Australia. In Adelaide, outside, you find huge stormwater retention basins with reuse, with the tertiary treatment, taking the water back to the cities because there is not so much rain in that area of Australia. But then, I don't know, have you heard about purple pipelines? These are the purple pipelines which carry treated wastewater, and they have been given different colors so that this is not a drinking water. The water for secondary use. And purple cities have come about in different parts of the world. And the whole question comes at how much do you teach our students today? If you wanted to make, the city of Ahmedabad as a purple city. Surat has a great potential. Surat city is already doing so much of sewage recycling. And there are already purple pipelines. One hasn't painted them purple, but you do see wastewater reuse happening in an organized way in a city like Surat. Move a little out to the irrigation, then smart irrigation. Irrigation engineers need to be talked about using the technology of mobile apps and remote control. And you see that how can you reduce the water consumption when we do smart irrigation. There is a subject of green chemistry being talked about, very important, which is extremely critical, I would say, in the curricula of chemical engineers, where we talk about green solvents, green catalysts, green and renewable raw materials, efficient processes in making these chemicals, and environmentally benign product. Extremely important area, not much still paid attention to in our curriculum, but absolutely needed. And if you brought in green chemistry with sustainable product design, that combination is something very important. We bring in a lot of innovation and thinking among students at how do you address the challenges of future. This is very important. Some of you, if you go on the web and read the Global Chemicals Outlook Part 2, you will then either you'll get extremely scared what's happening, how are we chemicalizing the entire world, what kind of risk, or you may get ideas that how do you get out of that problem and how do you do more and more upstream thinking in thinking about when we think about chemicals. The whole paradigm shift, as we see now, is happening, is that we're discussing the challenge now on a life cycle canvas. And that life cycle canvas is giving us directions that how do we push. Sometimes I use the word the wheel of circular economy. And that wheel of circular economy will look at right from how do we design and manufacture, how do we distribute, and what happens when the consumer gets those products, and is there a take back possibility? Is there enough avenue for reuse and repair and recycle? And how do we build that recycling sector itself, make it vibrant and strong so that the material flow is in a loop? And that something has to be introduced in our education. It has to be brought out, and students must think about circularity, think larger, not just limited to a manufacturing facility, but look at the entire system and the interconnections. And that I call like a third eye. जैसे बोलते हैं ना शंकर का तीसरी आँख is just that. To raise the student to understand that key element, which as I said, thinking about life cycle. Actually, if you think about life cycle, you'd never ever waste food in your plate, because you know that every grain which has reached you on your plate, sometimes we use the word farm to fork, has gone through so much of energy and material consumption and value adds that it's criminal to waste food from your plate. And that brings in straight away responsible behavior. I would say if you narrated बच्चों को, if you can narrate the whole concept of life cycle in a very creative way, is going to make a huge difference. We are today in a pandemic, and it's essential that we talk about pandemics and how do you manage pandemics when we talk about our higher education. Today, if you look at COVID-19, the medical plastic production itself is going in the next 2 years fivefold. Plastic as a sector is contributing to more than 16% of greenhouse gas emissions. Our single-use plastic is going to increase. Our consumption patterns are going to change. More and more packaging waste is getting generated, which has nearly 40% of plastic on an average, because we are going to be more online shopping. We also have a challenge of COVID-19 contaminated waste. We will see, for a while at least, shift from the public transport. People will work from home, and there will be issue of information security. They're going to use more and more sanitizers. That's going to be a challenge, and it's again an important element when we talk about the green chemistry. There'll be more telemedicine, contactless, diagnosis or health services. So it's a different transformation. And how do you look at this transformation from the environmental and social perspective while not forgetting the economy? And that's a challenge. And therefore, pandemic management, disaster management is actually as much as disaster management. But the higher order challenge, if you ask me today, which has to be brought in the education, which is real, is the responding to climate change. Today, we are not talking the way we talk about COVID-19, that so many people got infected and have recovered, and there were unfortunate deaths of so many people. I wish we discuss climate change at the same level, because it's much higher order impact and the risk that we are going to face. It's not happening like what is happening in terms of people getting infected in 10 days or 4 days or 14 days. But this is real, and it is far going to be impacting to everything, to our survival, to our global economy. But we don't talk about it as much we should. So climate change, as I said, with cyclones and desertification and fires, it's already showing its signs, and we have to bring it somehow into our higher education. It's a real problem. One of them being GHG mitigation or greenhouse gas mitigation. We have to bring in the topics on energy demand side management, energy efficiency, energy conservation, renewable energy, transport, fuel, land use management, waste and agricultural residue management in the context of GHG mitigation. Remember, I mean, these subjects are taught, but we have to teach them in the context of GHG mitigation. And we also have to understand how do we assess the vulnerability due to climate change to some of our structures, dams, tall buildings, ports and harbors, agriculture even. We have to get them climate proofed. That needs understanding of vulnerability assessment. The subject it is very important. What do we do to cope up? So since I'm discussing only the option of mainstreaming, of putting that plus to our current programs, one is to introduce courses or topics in the existing curricula where possible. Most of the times you find that there's not enough bandwidth, but then there are different ways that you can bring in these courses or topics, maybe as electives, maybe you can introduce them through flipped method of teaching. We can offer class assignments, research projects on the plus topics. So your master's, undergraduate dissertations, your doctoral research projects may be getting connected to some of those challenges I talked about, practices I talked about. We can even plan very carefully our internship programs where people get experience to work in those projects outside world where they get exposed to those plus elements which I mentioned, which are missing in a curriculum. That's how they get engaged with practice. Many of you students and your associations could organize lecture series only on focusing these plus topics, which are not finding still a place in the regular academic curricula. And then you can, of course, take lots of online courses which are available. So what is then that engineering plus we are looking at? It's something where we are understanding sustainability, which is through understanding of impacts, and it is people-centered. That's what we want to make every engineer at a higher education to be having that empathy and understanding and responsible thinking towards the challenges we talked about earlier. So when the sustainability ideas are getting mainstream, the curricula become more mature, more responsive, and they, as I call the term, they become plus. And the whole idea is to make this planet, therefore, future ready to face the challenges, what I talked about earlier. So we are all collectively today are looking into that future. We want to be a part of it. And the most important is we want to be proud to be the part of it. So lovely, I finished my presentation. Thank you for listening, and any questions I'll be happy to answer.
Sure, sir. Firstly, it was an amazing and very informative presentation. And I do have a few questions to ask you. So let's begin with the first thing. That what do you suggest? Do you suggest that we should entirely establish a new curriculum, or do we make changes in the existing curriculum?
So, Labdi, we have to go by both possibilities. I think the first thing we should do is review our existing curriculum and see how could we. And I had a slide on that, where we could think about reforming it as much as we can and use different other vehicles and tools. But certainly we do need to develop a program, which looks into all these challenges in a very structured way. And I think that's a need as well. And we can do that on a large scale. But I think if we planned in the next 3-4 years, we at least have 10 master's programs which are differently designed. I think that will be great. But I think we should do the first part to a larger number of courses we currently have.
Right. Do you see the faculties taking up these new courses might be a problem in the future?
That's my worry. And we have 3 senior professors today here already in the audience. I think I'm sure they will speak about it. And I saw in the Mentimeter many participants saying that faculty could be a challenge. So I think, yes, I would say that that's a challenge, and therefore we need to bring a network of faculty members, you know, and bring them together so that they also prepare themselves for offering such programs. So it's not going to be easy, but I'm sure we have several committed faculty members in our country, and all they need is sometimes bringing them together and people collectively look at this problem to come up with something innovative.
Right. In the Mentimeter, in the question where we had to choose two options, a lot of people did choose the problem of not being taught properly. The faculty is not being teaching the subject properly. So that seems the popular opinion among the people who have joined here. And sir, do you think it as a problem that various schools do not have appropriate faculties for this? So for example, they assign a geography teacher for the subject of environmental sciences and someone who is not enough knowledgeable for the subject.
Yeah, when this brings you again to the same question you asked me earlier about the faculty, and I think there are uneven situations. In some cases, you find extremely good faculty, and some cases there is a problem in terms of faculty teaching or their experience. So I would put our present COVID-19 pandemic into some advantage because many of us have now shifted on distance or web-based deliveries, and you can actually get people whom you want now. And you can even bring people, if you wish, from other countries to come and talk. So in some sense, that COVID-19 has given us some advantage. And you can get the teachers, coming and delivering talks. There is no issue now of travel or any other formality. But the problem is there. I would say yes, we do need some workshops. I would call them not training programs, more like workshops where faculty come together. I must tell you a story here, and I see in the audience many senior professors. But this is I'm just tempted to tell you this story that in 1984 when I joined IIT Bombay, and Pradeep Kalbar, you are here. I see you know something. My memory of IIT Bombay, that I was setting up the paper for the joint entrance examination. So we were the paper setters, and all paper setters were brought to IIT Kanpur, and we were trained how to set a question paper. Okay, how to set a question paper of JEE. So the professor who was training us, we were all faculty, young faculty, he asked us the question, why do we set up a question paper? So we said, because we want to assess the student. Some faculty said, we want to even assess how we taught. And the professor who taught us told us that we set the question paper to give student a confidence. Now, this kind of an answer I never heard before. But then those 5 days were very, very memorable to me because we were taught how to set a question paper in a very systematic way. And that was the collective, now I would say training, but we call that as a brainstorming workshop. Now imagine if we get like this workshops to discuss higher education and environment with some senior faculty. Wouldn't it make a difference? It will be amazing. And that's, I think, the way to go. We need more and more networking between professors. In fact, in IIT Bombay, we had something called Education Technology Group those days. And we even video recorded some of the best professors who were teaching, because we were worried we will lose them later. Because our feeling was that these great professors, the way they would move in the classroom, their voice modulation, the way they use the whiteboard, or in those days, the blackboard, was something phenomenal. And then, we thought we will just lose all that experience. So here also, we should get some of the best teachers in environmental science and engineering. And if I'm a young professor, lecturer, joining a school to teach this subject, I should be given a chance to view those videos. So I get inspired. I think we're missing that.
That is true, actually. That's a great idea. The networking idea might work and it might help people grow a lot and know about the education system a lot. And sir, teachers is one of the problems, but the textbooks will be other whole lot of a problem. The
Sorry?
material, the reading material, or
No, I just
the
missed your last.
textbooks or the reading.
Aha. Yeah, so you know what is happening now, given the kind of expanse we need of this subject, there is no one textbook which will give us everything, right? And and students nowadays, I think generally you will not find people following just one textbook. People like to Google now and fish out the PDFs, and that is what the trend has been. But there are still some excellent books available. And I will invite many of you to go to my blog site, and I have a blog on books that you must read in environmental engineering. And I sometimes take a look at that list, and of course I know I need to update that list, but there are certain books which are so influential, so great, and so well written that they have to be brought to the notice of the students.
Okay, so let's take up the questions from the chat box in between. Just a moment.
Can I ask?
Yes, sure, you may ask the question.
Sriman, the very important one point is about the communication. I think we have left the environment to the English language only. That is what really happening. बात क्या है कि IITian से की जो learning है, so that has to be transformed on ground by the ITIs. The ITI fellow, the poor students, they are unable to understand. So only the English thing is not perhaps the limited. It should not be confined with this thing. आपने जो कुछ भी कहा बहुत अच्छी बात है, but यहाँ जितना audience है और जो लोग इसमें काम कर रहे हैं वो, they do not have to go to the classrooms teaching and all that. But what actually we can do it. Number 2, आपका योगदान बहुत बड़ा है क्योंकि जो नई एनवायरमेंट नेशनल एनवायरमेंट पॉलिसी आई है, तो आई एम श्योर दैट यू मस्ट बी ऑल्सो एक्सटेंडिंग योर हेल्पिंग हैंड इन पुटिंग योर वैल्यूड इनपुट्स. क्योंकि लब्धी वाज आस्किंग कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हम रिवाइज कर सकते हैं. नाइदर शी कैन डू इट नॉर यू कैन डू इट. देयर इज अ सिस्टम, वी हैव टू फॉलो द सिस्टम. सो दैट इज द वेरी राइट थिंग. सो योर इंफॉर्मेशन should be properly put in that way. And what perhaps this group is looking forward कि हमें क्या सीख लेनी चाहिए. You have given a very valued thing. But now about the communication, I have marked that many of the participants they have left. क्योंकि वो अंग्रेजी में है सर, अब तो आप बड़ी टेक्निकल बात करते हैं, तो that thing has to go in a local language. I'm not saying you have not said it, but this is very important thing. जो ग्राउंड पे काम कर रहा है उसको पता नहीं है क्या है. और दूसरी बात, जो लोग IITian से, सॉरी विद ड्यू रिस्पेक्ट टू योरसेल्फ, आप मेरे गुरुजी भी है, तो बात ऐसी है सर कि जो लोग ज्यादा पढ़ते हैं वो लोग अपनी कैबिन से बाहर नहीं आते, ग्राउंड पे जाते नहीं है. जैसे कि मास्टर्स हुए लोग प्राइमरी स्कूल में टीचर्स होते हैं, तो वो छोटे बच्चे को पढ़ा नहीं सकते. तो एक्चुअली हमारी ये सिस्टम है, इट इज नाउ वेरी एसेंस कि प्राइमरी में PTC वाला ही जाना चाहिए, ज्यादा एजुकेशन वाला नहीं जाना चाहिए. इस तरह का लेवल होना चाहिए. और दूसरी बात जो लब्धि ने इनिशियली कहा ना कि MC मेहता के बाद ही एनवायरमेंट हुआ, तो मैं जरा महेश भाई पंड्या भी है, आप भी शायद उनको जानते होंगे कि LD इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज, और मोदक साहब आप भी यू हैव आल्सो विटनेस ड्यूरिंग योर टाइम्स, क्योंकि आपका योगदान गुजरात में बहुत रहा है, कि प्रोफेसर PP ओझा, डॉक्टर PP ओझा, उन्होंने सबसे पहला ME एनवायरमेंट का कोर्स LD इंजीनियरिंग में किया था. इट वाज इन वेरी अर्ली 1980s. तो मतलब कि ये बात भी हमें उससे जोड़नी चाहिए. इट इज ऑफ कोर्स MC मेहता इज फाइन, और MC मेहता है स्पेसिफिकली गिवन, जो महेश भाई ने स्लाइड्स बताई थी कि दैट वाज फॉर द मैट्रिकुलेशन एंड ग्रेजुएशंस में होना चाहिए. और गुजरात के काफी कुछ शायद लब्धि ने भी पढ़ा होगा अपनी स्कूलिंग में एनवायरमेंट सब्जेक्ट, मगर वो एनवायरमेंट सब्जेक्ट में जो मोदक जी ने जो बात बताई है उसको अपडेट करने की जरूरत है. और दूसरी बात लवली, यू हैव बीन सेइंग अबाउट द टेक्स्ट बुक, forget about now. It is not a time for at least the graduation student to go for the textbook. They should go to the library or through the Googles and other books. So मेरे ख्याल से this is what certain you may consider it as a suggestion or a criticism. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh ji.
Sir, there is a very good question in the chat box. How can we have students and parents value environmental education more and feel proud about? For example, parents are very proud if kids have developed a stupid app rather than involved in environmental issues and developing solutions towards that. So the main concern here is the importance of environmental education among parents is less popular.
Yeah, certainly. So normally, Labdi, this is done through conducting activities where you bring in together parents and their children or students, and such activities which take the bring in the involvement of parents. It could be a nice opportunity to get them sensitized. So it could be a competition, it could be a community level action, collective action, where parents do play a role along with their children. That makes a difference. So this is the way that we reach the parents.
We have the next question from Alpesh Kumar Makhwana.
Yes. I have one question. Can I speak?
Oh yes, we can hear you.
Amit from Bihar, Patna, PG Department of Environmental Science, and nowadays I'm research scholar. Sir, I have my question is directly goes, what's a problem for an environment education in a primary school level not circulate, and a higher level study research but not a circulate in primary level, so different between a upper level and lower level. So what's I do, what's any person do environment field workers, what relate intermediate between in this position. सर सबसे बड़ी चीज ये हो जाती है कि हम लोग पढ़ते हैं ऊपर, अभी मैंने पीजी करके उसके बाद रिसर्च कर रहा हूँ, बट मैं देखता हूँ कि जो जमीनी स्तर पे जो बच्चे हैं, जब तक हम बच्चों को इस पर जागरूक नहीं करेंगे, उनके सिलेबस में ये इन्वायरमेंट सब्जेक्ट के बारे में हम जागरूक नहीं करेंगे, उनको डालेंगे नहीं उनके अंदर, तो ये कैसे होगा? तो सर मेरा कहना है कि सर इस पे आप थोड़ा अगर कुछ सजेशन देते कि कैसे मैंने बच्चों को जो है, अभी जैसे पैंडेमिक वाली जो सिचुएशन चल रही है, फिर हमने तो पैंडेमिक जो आ गया सर, तो मैंने देख रहे हैं हम लोग कि अभी इन्वायरमेंट बहुत हमारा क्लीन दिखाई दे रहा है, बट नॉट ये कोई बहुत बड़ा ऐसी नहीं है कि पेंडेमिक हरदम रहे और लॉकडाउन के लोग बोल रहे हैं कि लॉकडाउन के सिचुएशन से एनवायरनमेंट बहुत स्वच्छ हो गया। तो क्या सर इसका एक अल्टीमेटली ये ऑप्शन नहीं ना है कि हम बार बार लॉकडाउन लगाते रहें और ये एनवायरनमेंट को स्वच्छ दिखाते रहें? तो मेरा सर ये प्रश्न था और मेरा सर एक जिज्ञासा भी थी, क्योंकि सर आप तो ये गुरु हुए और एक्सपर्ट भी हैं सर, मेरा सर एक जिज्ञासा है आपसे कि हम लोगों को इस पर मैंने कोई एक कंक्रीट सॉल्यूशन क्या होनी चाहिए?
आपने जो प्राइमरी या स्कूल एजुकेशन की जो बात की है ना, तो जैसे मैंने शुरू में ही बताया वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, लेकिन इस लेक्चर में मैंने सोचा कि मैं सिर्फ हायर एजुकेशन के बारे में बात करूं, लेकिन ये जो बात है कि हमें स्कूल चिल्ड्रन के एजुकेशन में पर्यावरण का जो विषय है, जो ज़्यादा एम्फसिस देके, उसको इम्पोर्टेंस देके पढ़ाना है। तो ये तो मैं आपकी बात से बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ, और इसके लिए जो मटेरियल बनाना है वो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एक्टिविटी बेस्ड ऐसे होना चाहिए, जो बुकिश न हो, और उसमें जो छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं वो डेली लिविंग में उनके एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग जो बोलते हैं ना, उससे सीखेंगे, और वो वैसे जब सीखेंगे तब वो जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, जो संदेश देना है हमें, वो उनको ज्यादा अच्छा अपील हो कि जो उसको वो अडॉप्ट करे। तो ये जो पढ़ाने की जो ढंग है और जो मटेरियल हम यूज करेंगे, उससे हायर एजुकेशन की जो ट्रेनिंग है वो बिल्कुल अलग है। और इसको जानते हुए, जैसे कि आप अभी खुद स्वयं आप काम कर रहे हैं हायर एजुकेशन में, तो आपको उसी चीजों को बच्चों की भाषा में बच्चों समझ सके, उसमें ट्रांसफॉर्म करना है छोटी छोटी चीजें। जैसे मैं आपको एक उदाहरण देता हूँ, जब आप तो फिजिक्स पढ़ रहे हैं या फिजिक्स आपने सीखा है, तो आपको याद होगा कि हम हुक्स लॉ सिखाते हैं हायर एजुकेशन में। तो स्प्रिंग होती है, उसमें हम कोई लोड लगाते हैं, फिर वो स्प्रिंग थोड़ी लंबी होती है, जितना आप लोड डालेंगे उतनी वो स्प्रिंग लंबी होगी।
elasticity.
अगर आप आपके छात्रों को बताएंगे कि ये स्प्रिंग जो है वो पर्यावरण है और ये जो लोड है वो पोल्यूशन है, जैसे कि आप स्प्रिंग को लोड लगाएंगे तो स्प्रिंग इलोंगेट हो जाएगी, उसी ढंग से जो पर्यावरण है उसमें आप प्रदूषण जब लाएंगे तो उसकी क्वालिटी, उसका गुणधर्म वो खराब हो जाएगा। ये एग्जाम्पल मेथड जो टीचिंग की होती है, जो स्टूडेंट जान सकता है कि अरे मुझे तो पता है ये स्प्रिंग और ये लोड, अच्छा उसका संबंध पर्यावरण से भी है, तो वो अच्छी तरह जान जाता है। मैंने एक तो आपको एक उदाहरण दिया, तो ऐसे बहुत से उदाहरण है, उसमें काम भी बहुत अच्छा हुआ है। मटेरियल तो नया नया बनाने की जरूरत नहीं है, काफी अच्छे अच्छे मटेरियल और गेम्स बन रहे हैं जहाँ छात्र और इवन छोटे बच्चे भी उसमें भाग लेके पर्यावरण के बारे में सीख सकते हैं। और ये सब चीजें क्लासरूम में नहीं करनी है, उनको वॉक पे लेके जाना है, नेचर वॉक करना है, उनको बताना होगा कि ये पक्षी ऐसा है। वो बुक से नहीं पढ़ाना है, उसको वहां लेके जाना है, बगीचे में लेके जाना है, बाहर लेके जाना है
और नेचर से कोरिलेट करना है।
हाँ, नेचर बेस्ड एजुकेशन जो बोलते हैं वो हमें स्ट्रेटेजी इस्तेमाल करनी पड़ेगी।
क्योंकि सर आज अगर हम वो स्ट्रेटेजी इस्तेमाल करते तो आने वाला समय जो हमारा जनरेशन है कि चाइल्ड इज फ्यूचर ऑफ नेशन, तो वो एक इन्वायरमेंट के लिए बहुत बड़ा हमारा छोटा एक इनिशिएटिव, बहुत बड़ा एक कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव एडवोकेसी।
लेकिन अभी भी देर नहीं है, अभी काम कर सकते हैं, ज्यादा काम कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि अगर आप अभी बच्चों को पढ़ाएंगे तो वो एडल्ट बन के काम करने हायर एजुकेशन में और 15-20 साल के बाद आएंगे। तो हमें इस पे अभी काम करना है। जैसे इसलिए मैंने कहा था शुरू में कि बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि आप बच्चों की एजुकेशन में पर्यावरण लाए और उसको बताएं, जैसे कि वो याद रखे और उसकी जो लाइफस्टाइल है वो उससे बदले। लेकिन अभी के लिए मेरे पास जो लिमिटेड टाइम था उसमें मैं सिर्फ हायर एजुकेशन की बात कर सका।
अभी सर आपने बहुत अच्छा इन्फॉर्मेटिव सूचना बहुत अच्छे था, लेकिन वो सर एक मेरी जिज्ञासा थी आपसे, इसीलिए सर मैंने थोड़ा सा इंटरप्ट किया।
थैंक यू अमित।
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, if you don't mind, I could just add one point.
क्या?
तो सर आपने जो पूछा ना कि स्कूल में कैसे इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करें, मतलब कैसे एक्टिविटीज लेकर आए जो इंग्लिश में ना हो, तो सर एक यूएन का एक इनिशिएटिव है SDSN के सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट सोल्यूशन नेटवर्क, उनका एक ग्लोबल स्कूल प्रोग्राम है। आप उसको अगर आप रेफर करेंगे ना तो उसमें हर सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल के लिए फर्स्ट क्लास से लेकर 12th क्लास तक के लिए बहुत सारी एक्टिविटीज हैं जो कि एनवायरनमेंट नहीं और भी बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स जो इंपॉर्टेंट है जो बच्चों को पढ़ाने चाहिए वो सब कवर करते हैं। तो और उनका पर्पस यही है कि वो स्कूल के बच्चों के थ्रू किस तरह बड़ों तक मतलब माँ बाप और बाकी घर के लोगों को भी एजुकेट करें उस चीज को लेकर। तो आप उसके मटेरियल को देखिएगा, वो लोकल लैंग्वेजेस में भी काफी अवेलेबल है।
All right. I was thinking, Labdi, now that the time is, I could see running out. Could we do a last Mentimeter and then close?
Yes, sir. Just before that, one question from Mr. Nagaraj Adve.
Let's
take that one question. How wide? His question is, how wide is the understanding and engagement with the climate crisis among students and other young people in places like Gujarat? How do you think that has changed over the time?
So, Nagarajji, you know, there is not so much penetration done on climate change in our, lower, I would say, or middle level education. Even I would say, generally, in what we teach at the undergrad level across branches. You might like to visit one website. Maybe, I will send it to Labdi and you can take, Labdi you can send to everybody. जिसको अमित साहब आपको भी इंटरेस्ट होगा. It is called Climate Change Resources Tools. ये वेबसाइट हमने बनाई है, which is Nagaraj is for everybody. It is got student activity books on climate change, which are very, very nice in terms of their visual appeal. Then we have posters and presentations. Yeah, it's a collection of the resources, including carbon calculators for kids and for adults, and there are a lot of fun activities, stickers, posters, what have you. But so this is a resource. Yeah, I
So
will
this is
send the link. Yeah,
aimed
I
at
will send
students
the
of
link.
what level?
Yeah, so we in fact ran a workshop with about 45 school principals. उनको हमने साथ में बुलाया, स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल्स थे, एंड उनको ये सब रिसोर्स दे दी, उन्होंने अच्छी तरह उसका यूज भी किया. तो वेबसाइट पे वो इजीली डाउनलोडेबल है मटेरियल, और इसमें आपको यू कैन यूज इट इवन फॉर हायर एजुकेशन, यू कैन यूज इट फॉर स्कूल लेवल ऑल्सो, बट इट इज फोकसिंग ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज. That is what you're right. That is needs to be really brought in and explained when we are in our education programs.
सर एक बार साइट बता दीजिए.
वो साइट में जरा डाउन साइट है, उसका यूआरएल मैं आपको ऐसे करूं कि लब्धि को मैं भेज देता हूं, एंड लब्धि इफ यू डोंट माइंड आप अमित साहब को रीच करके दे देंगे उनको वो यूआरएल, या यू कैन गिव इट टू एवरीबडी हु अटेंडेड टुडे.
And we will also post on our Instagram page, so you can take it.
So it's a very good site. Amit, you will like it, and Mr. Nagaraj, you will also love it. There's a lot of good information there, and it's a lot of pain we have taken to create it. I'll be happy more and more people use it.
Yes, sir. Very fruitful, sir.
Yeah. We'll
Professor Kodak is Korean here.
Yes, Korean.
Yes. Very nice to hear you, Professor. I have just 2 points. One, I would like to have your comment on environmental engineering program at the UG level. And second, there is an important need to bring in these concepts which you have highlighted as part of this mandatory course or the UG students take, both engineering as well as even arts science. But this syllabus, which was set under the direction of the High Court, it is so vast and it starts on basics and we get lost. So if there is some way that we can push this, relook at this curriculum for this mandatory course, where the interest for this different topic should be generated. Second,
I agree.
And second, that course needs to be taught by the respective discipline people. It should not be just allocated to somebody who is not having any other or less workload. So, a course which was introduced with a good spirit, but it lost its usefulness. I think we need to start with that. Second, this, of course, when it comes to higher education, we also always link it with the employment opportunities. So, if we have, say, an undergraduate program with focus on environmental engineering, what do you think will be the opportunities? Are we ready, or still we need to wait? Of course, I know there are UG programs specifically on environmental engineering, but my understanding is the job opportunities for them is very weak.
Yes. So the
Mr.
first
Amit, mute your mic, please.
Okay.
Hello, Professor Korean. You can hear me, I think.
Yes, sir. We can.
Yeah. So your first point, very much well taken. In fact, for the benefit of all of you, Professor Korean has written a book, very nice book on environmental science and engineering at the level which people can use for the undergraduate course. It's a very, very nice book. I'll recommend you to Google and see his book on environmental science and engineering. And I take your point, Professor, that needs to be updated now. I mean, the whole curriculum, of course, needs to be updated. So that point is well taken. I would say time is still not there to launch another undergrad program in environmental engineering. Although you do have such programs, LD itself has. You have one in Kolhapur Institute of Technology. We have a professor here, Pradeep, who actually comes from that school. But I think getting such programs out in a larger number could face problems of employment. So I would say rather than experimenting there, we might just add more value to the existing curriculum and make them, look at the environmental related challenges and introduce topics which need to be covered as essential topics so that they meet the requirements of practice. That is what at the moment I would suggest, to be a little more pragmatic.
Yes. We can proceed with the.
Okay.
So before I conclude the session, I would like to thank Sir for such an informative session, and thank the entire audience for being such an interactive audience and taking and participating in everything and being a part of the Samvad. And it was an honor continuing this Samvad with you, sir.